What's up guys, James here from Make Awake Marine. Today we're going to be installing the Atlas Wakeboard Tower on this Stingray 180. Take a look at it right here. We're going to be installing the Atlas Wakeboard Tower from Make Awake Marine. We're going to be putting a polished aluminum tower on this boat. This is a 2005 Stingray 180 RX. It's got the Volvo Penta 3.0 4-cylinder engine on it, but it's an open bow, inboard outboard. I already know that our tower is a good fit for this boat, but let me show you how to check. I know this wakeboard tower will fit a maximum of 96-inch wide. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a tape measure here. I'm gonna go across the rear because that is the widest point of the boat and check it, and we're more like 81, so we are good. This will fit up to 96 inches wide, which pretty much all of your 17-foot to 22-foot open bow inboard outboards or open bow pleasure ski boats like this wakeboard tower should fit no problem due to the adjustability of it. All right, I'm gonna open up this box and I'll see you in just a second. All right, so I have everything unwrapped. As you can see here, everything's wrapped up in protective foam in the box, so it takes a minute to get everything unwrapped. If your pieces have these black caps anywhere on the sides, these are trash. You do not need these. Throw these away. Your kit should come with 4 of these kind of concaved shaped gaskets, which are meant for installing on a curved surface, which actually mine's pretty flat, so I won't end up needing these 4. I got 4 that are flat. That's what I'll end up using on mine. You're gonna have 4 deck plates. You're gonna have 6 of these tower fittings, and you know they're the tower fittings because they have this little stub out the bottom. You're gonna have 4 of these bigger deck mounts, and you know they're the deck mounts because they're flat. You're gonna have 2 of these billet aluminum clamps. You're gonna have a bag of hardware, bolts. You're gonna have 2 of these S brackets, which we'll get to that in a minute. And bag of hardware. You're gonna have tools, Allen wrenches. So it's gonna come with a 10mm Allen wrench, as well as a, what is that, a 6mm Allen wrench. And then if your tower came with 2 of these flat rubber pieces, they are not needed. They are trash. You can throw these away. All right, so I've checked the parts list with the installation guide. I got everything, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find out where exactly I'm gonna drill through the hole for my deck mounts to go. This is what's gonna support the wakeboard tower to the hull of the boat with those deck mounts bolted to it. And I know, just based on what looks good, what people do online, I know generally the front wakeboard tower leg is gonna be kind of in this area, about where the front windshield kind of meets the hull there. So I'm probably shooting for somewhere right there. And then according to the instructions, the rear leg should be approximately 46 inches back, which is probably going to put it somewhere in this range. The reason it's not an exact measurement is this tower is adjustable, meaning as the legs are spaced apart farther, that top bar will be lower. It'll change the height. As those legs are pushed together closer, it's going to make it taller. So you can set the position to make sure when you're walking around in your boat that you're not having to duck or not having to hit your head or anything. So what I'm going to do, I picked up some blue painter's tape. I'm going to start marking the hole of where I want to mount this thing and start measuring. All right, so I got some tape on the boat. That's going to give me something I can write on and kind of mark when I'm lining up and measuring of where I want to drill this thing through the fiberglass. All right, so this is not required at all, but I went ahead and took these seats off since they come out so easy. That way I have more room to kind of get in here and check. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check to make sure at those locations, I want to make sure there's no wires or no anything I'm going to hit onto. So if I was drilling, say up here, don't want to hit this with the drill bit, but my first spot is roughly here, which looks pretty good. And then my second spot, where's the tape? Oh, is going to be roughly in this area. I got some cables there, but actually I'm going to be drilling right about there. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Looks pretty good right there. And then this is the side you want to be careful with, because you definitely have your throttle cables, your shift cables and stuff going back here, but I got plenty of room. It looks good. If you do this, if you're checking in there and you see nothing but foam inside of there, it's pretty common on some of these older boats, like especially the 90s and 80s boats, that when you get up in there, they used to spray foam in there for flotation. What you'll want to do is get a pry bar or like a chisel and just kind of hand scrape away that foam so you can get it on the hold. You do not want to bolt your wakeboard tower with that foam in there. It's going to allow it movement and play. So if your boat has foam in there, you want to make sure that's out of the way. Scrape it out before you get started. This wakeboard tower can be installed with minimal tools. So you're going to need a drill, a set of drill bits. You're definitely going to need a 7/16 inch drill bit and then a 9/16 inch drill bit. So a lot of these kits that you get from the hardware stores, they only go up to a 1/2 inch. So make sure you grab a 9/16. I recommend getting a set of countersink bits for these holes that go through the fiberglass specifically. I'm probably going to be using this 3/4 inch one there. These bolts for the deck mounts, you're going to need a 7/8 inch wrench or socket to tighten these up. And then for the tower top bar bolts, this is a 11/16 bolt. But that's it. You got Allen wrenches for everything else. So other than just some generic stuff like a tape measure, that's really all you need. All right, so I got one of these deck mounts here, and what I'm doing is I'm looking for a nice flat space or a nice curved space if I'm going to use those curved rubber grommets. This is kind of the area where I'm pretty darn flat, where I'm going to mount it. You just want to make sure you're not mounting it, you know, somewhere like this, or, you know, obviously it's not going to go there on the rub rail. So I'm going to probably end up splitting the difference between this groove here and my rub rail and put it back there. And since I got this nice line on the body back here, I'm probably going to split the difference again and give myself a measurement that's going to be really easy to transfer over to that other side. All right, guys, if you are really curious, I ended up finding a measurement that was exactly 3 inches up from this rub rail. Back there, I'm also 3 inches up from my rub rail, and I ended up finding a distance that is exactly 4 feet from this spot to this spot. There's a lot of flexibility in the tower, so you even can adjust the height a little bit later because of our clamp design. I've installed this tower on this size boat before, so I kind of like the spot and like where it looks there. If you really wanted to and you were unsure about the height, you could actually drill this front leg and then install the front half of the tower and the top section of the tower and leave the rear section off. And you would obviously need a helper to help you hold it, but you could actually set up the rear leg and help you determine what that distance is. But I'm good with the 48. I'm going to show you guys how it's going to look once I'm done. All right, I got everything marked on both sides. Probably the hardest part is transferring these marks over to that side to make sure they're the same. Obviously, you want the left side to be even with the right side, and you want to use points of reference in the boat. So usually things like this on the windshield, go off the front of the boat, go off the back of the boat, are good things, but always trust your eyes too. What you don't want to do is a lot of times these cleats, they from the factory are going to be sometimes a 1/2 inch off or more. Just be careful of using these sort of things or stickers or anything like that, because there's a really good chance they're not even going to be right from the factory. All right, so after you've double checked, triple checked your measurements, you've checked on the other side, you've checked to make sure you're not hitting any wires on the inside of the hole, now it's time to drill. And I'm actually going to start with a really small size drill bit, and I'm going to work my way up to that final 9/16 inch size. All right, that's the first hole. Make sure when you're going in, make sure you're going in perfectly perpendicular. If fuel starts shooting out when you do this, you did something wrong. All right, now that I got the small holes out of the way, I'm going to work my way up. This is a 1/4 inch drill bit here. Just as a disclaimer, make sure before you do this, make sure you got eye protection, ear protection if you want it, a mask, a respirator. You don't want to breathe any of this fiberglass dust, so make sure you're not breathing any of that. Make sure you got gloves. Make sure you're keeping yourself safe. Guys, a lot of people don't have a 9/16, and if you take a 1/2 inch and just kind of round out the hole a little bit, you can actually get the bolt in there just fine, and it's nice and snug. All right, guys, all my holes are drilled, so I removed the tape, and I'm going to use this countersink bit just to put a little bit of a chamfer on that outside edge. And what that's going to do is kind of prevent the gel coat, the outer kind of cosmetic gel coat, from wanting to spider web crack in the future from the stress of the wakeboard tower. So there, you can see it. Just takes a little bit. All right, guys, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our deck mount and we're going to take the threaded rod and we're going to tighten that up in here. In just a second, we're going to Loctite it, but not quite yet. We're going to take whichever rubber gasket we're using. I'm using the flat ones because my hole's pretty flat. That is going to go like this on the boat. And one thing you want to do is when you go back here on the inside, okay, it's going to be, the rubber is going to be against the fiberglass of your boat. And then it's going to be fiberglass here. Then you're going to have this aluminum backing plate. Then you're going to have this locking nut, and or a lock washer, and then you're going to have a locking nut. Okay, when I do that, I'll just show you. When I do that in my boat, I have quite a bit of room in here. So my fiberglass is not extremely thick. So what I'm going to do to strengthen it up, and this is just common practice for boat building, what I got is a sheet of 1/2 inch pressure treated plywood. I went to Lowe's today and picked up treated 1/2 inch plywood, just a small section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a small backing plate. So when this goes through the fiberglass on the inside, it's actually going to go rubber. It's going to be the backing plate, and then this between the fiberglass and the backing plate. So what it's going to do is it's going to really strengthen up the area where it's mounted and help it make it a lot stronger. All right, guys, so I cut out 4 backing plates out of 1/2 inch pressure treated plywood. I did a 4 inch tall by 6 inch wide piece, and I put a 9/16 inch hole right in the center. So this is going to really strengthen up the hole where these things are mounted. All right, so I've done a test mount with the deck mount. Everything looked good. When you put these threaded rods in, you'll notice one side has an Allen wrench so you can tighten it up inside the deck mount. You do want to add a little bit of Loctite on these, and I'm going to use blue just because somebody might want to take this tower off down the road, and I don't want it to be absolutely impossible for them to remove it with red Loctite. So I'm gonna put a good dab of Loctite on here, and then I'm gonna torque this down inside these deck mounts. All right, guys, so inside the hole, I have my 1/2 inch sheet of pressure treated plywood. I have my aluminum backing plate. I have my lock washer or split washer, and then I have my locking nut, which I'm gonna have to tighten this up. No need for this to be super tight yet, because it'll be much easier to tighten once you have the tower installed on the outside, which will prevent that that outer deck mount from spinning. So now we're gonna do the same thing on all 4 mounting locations. All right, guys, the hard part is out of the way. These don't have to be all the way tightened down yet, because we're still gonna be twisting them and moving them for the next part, but all the drilling through the boat is done, and now we get to install the wakeboard tower. So these 2 legs here with the welded on fitting there is the front legs. These 2 C-shaped, banana-shaped legs are the rear legs. You got your 2 upper corners. This fitting actually will bolt to the fitting on those front legs. And then we have our upper crossbar that makes up the top section. So let's get started. All right, to start, we're gonna take our 6 wake tower fittings, and we're gonna put a bolt, a split washer through all of these, and then you should have 6 spots on these tower legs that these go. So what we're gonna do is just put these on there and tighten them up. When you put these fittings on, there's no need for them to be super tight yet. We're gonna go back and Loctite some of these bolts, and by leaving them snug but not all the way tight, we actually will be able to it'll keep them in place so they're not falling around, but we can actually twist them when we're installing it, so we can get them positioned and lined up where we need them to go. All right, now all my fittings are on. Now I'm going to bolt the elbows to the top of the front legs. These are the same exact bolts, same exact lock washers, and you'll have 2 bolts at these joints here. Before I bolt this together, one thing I want to point out is this tube is hollow, meaning you can pass speaker wire or light wire all the way through here. And when you get to these bolted joints, one thing that's unique about our towers, when you get to these bolted joints, we actually built in channels. So your wire can go straight from that piece straight into this piece. So if you're installing wakeboard tower or you want to pull wire, this is exactly where you're going to want to run them through. All right, those 2 bolts are in. Again, not all the way tightened down yet. We'll do that later. All right, guys, now that everything's bolted together on the legs, I'm going to be attaching first the front legs to the front. If you have somebody that can help you hold things, now is a good time. I'm going to turn this front leg just like this, which is probably about the angle that that front leg's going to be on. All right, so I got the left side of the boat on. Keep in mind, you want these angles to be the same as that side. Whichever one's on the top here, you want the top one over there. This rotates here right now, and then this also rotates this way. So make sure these faces kind of match up, and once you tighten them, they'll kind of start turning. As long as you left these kind of loose, it'll start turning the direction you want it. But I got those installed on both sides. And I'm gonna go ahead and stand it up and put my top bar on, which is this bar here. Before you do this, you wanna make sure you take out these little plastic pieces from inside that center tube. You don't need those. All right, guys, sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead here, but in order to put that top bar on both sides, you actually kind of have to disconnect one side here at the boat in order to get it lined up, and then you really need to hold it up in order to get it back fastened here. So I had some help. I had somebody help me hold this up so that I could slide that top bar on, and I went ahead and fastened this down. And then so my helper didn't have to hold this up for me the whole time, I went ahead and put these billet clamps on. You can see they go, actually I have them right above where those 2 pieces bolt together on the tower. So I did not tighten them up yet. I just put them on there just snug so they held their place. And I have them facing out so that on this side, the short leg can bolt on the outside facing in. I guess you could probably do it the other way, but this is the correct way. And so yeah, so now I just kind of need to tweak things and adjust things and get them lined up. But first thing I'm going to do, actually, I got a 7/8 inch wrench. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to tighten up these deck mounts, because right now this tower's holding it in place, so that'll keep it from spinning out here on the outside. So instead of using a 7/8 inch wrench, I went and got a socket here. We'll just tighten this up. All right, guys, so I just went back through and I tightened up that 7/8 inch nut on the back side of these. You want to make sure these are facing the same directions on both sides. So I got these on the top, got that on the top there. Good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start playing with the position of the tow bar. I want to make sure it's centered left to right, make sure everything's evenly spaced. I mean, ideally, this distance here is going to be the same distance here, and I'm very, very close. So let me get adjusting that, and I will see you in a second. Guys, one thing I did is I checked my height with a tape measure up here, and I made sure on the left side and the right side that I'm even. So I'm like, let's just say about 75.5 over here. And I jump over to this side, and I am basically the same. So I'm good on height. If I wasn't, then what I could do is I could adjust one of these clamps up and down so that to make sure that top bar is perfectly level. But mine ended up, I actually just put this right up against the welds, this clamp, and that worked out perfect. All right, guys, so I went ahead and I torqued down my clamp here, these bolts up here. I'm gonna put Loctite on them in a second, but I wanted to make sure this spacing, if you tighten up this side, then this side has a bigger gap. So I kind of tighten them evenly to make sure it's the same on both sides. And then this angle here, you wanna make sure is consistent over here, because there's some adjustability here with this. You can have them a little bit different, but you want to try to get them exactly the same so that both sides match. All right, now that I got my center bar exactly even and spaced where I want it, I'm going to lock it in with these kind of panhead bolts and this lock nut. There is no split washer for these, just so you know. It's a 7/16 hole. We're going to drill straight through the cross beam. Already has a hole in it, so it'll drill through those angle pieces or the corner pieces in there. And then we'll be able to insert our bolts. Make sure your pylon is perfectly straight up and down before you do this. When you drill into this metal, it will leave metal bits in the floor. So I recommend putting down a tarp or some towels or something to catch it. I got the seats removed to this boat. I'm going to vacuum this boat out and give this boat a good detail anyways. So I'm going to proceed as is. So it's going to look like this. So there's that side. I'm gonna jump around and do this side just so I know it's perfectly lined up. I'm gonna do this side from the back. All right, so I got this side from the back, and then you should be able to stick that drill bit and go through both sides. That way you know it's perfectly lined up. So we're gonna do that same thing. I'm actually gonna go ahead and put a bolt in this one because I don't want this thing tilting around. I'm gonna put a bolt in this one to hold it in place, and then I'm gonna drill out the other 4. All right, so I got all my holes drilled, and like I said, metal shavings will go everywhere, so make sure you vacuum all that up, and you don't want to be walking barefoot on it. All right, so we're gonna put another bolt in here. There. Put a bolt on this side, and then on the back, we're gonna put that nut. All right, and after you got all those on there, you're gonna use the 6mm Allen wrench that came with the wakeboard tower and an 11/16" wrench or socket to tighten up the nut on the back side. So let's go ahead and torque all those down. All right, all 4 of those top section bolts are torqued down. Now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna start tightening up all my other bolts, and we can start wrapping this thing up. I'm gonna be adding blue Loctite. Any bolts that you don't need to fold, or if you're not folding this thing down, for instance, these bolts, you would never need to remove these. I'm going to put blue Loctite on these. But for instance, to fold, you might want to remove this bolt, or you might want to remove that bolt there. Those I will not be putting Loctite on. But don't forget, you have these bolts on the inside still that are not torqued down on all these tower fittings. You'll need to disconnect and tighten those up. And when you tighten them up, make sure that they're still lined up at exactly what angle they need for you to bolt it together. I'm not sure if I've said this already, but there are 2 bolts in here that are longer than the others. They are 50mm instead of 40mm. They are actually longer because they go through this clamp. So this bolt up here, that bolt up there at that clamp, those should be your long ones. All right, guys, so I just went back and torqued everything down and added Loctite to everything I needed to add Loctite to, and this tower is rock solid. Check this out. I can shake it and move the entire boat. That's how strong this thing is. You should be able to do pull-ups off the top of this thing. Really solid. I still got to go back through and vacuum up my mess that I made. But this thing totally changed the way this boat looks. Looks like a completely different boat. So I'm going to be adding a bimini top on here, which will be in a separate video, as well as a wakeboard rack and a mirror. All right, guys, so that wraps up the wakeboard tower. So I cleaned up the inside, got it vacuumed back out. This boat is looking pretty sweet. Added our wakeboard tower rack here to the side. This is a must-have. Get your boards out of the way. Small boats like this don't have a lot of room for boards. So you definitely want one of these so that you can put them over the side of the boat. When you get back in it, your board's wet. It's now gonna drip outside the boat. It's not gonna drip inside the boat. It's not gonna cut your seats. Really, this looks awesome. So going to be adding another wakeboard rack to the other side. Going to be adding one of our mirrors, probably adding some bimini, our oversized bimini to the top of this thing, and some wakeboard tower speakers here in the next few days. But just want to give you guys a look at this. One thing before I go, I do want to show you guys how to fold this wakeboard tower. So this is a collapsible wakeboard tower, meaning if you need to fold this thing to fit it in your garage, your carport, or even out on the lake and you need to fit under a low bridge, this thing actually collapses and folds down. There's a couple different ways to fold this thing. I'm going to show you what I think is the best and easiest way to fold this. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this bolt up here, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, taking this bolt out over here. All right, now that I got that bolt out of the way, what I'm going to do is take each of these rear legs and I'm going to fold them back. So let me start with this side here. Just going to take this leg and I'm going to just rotate it back just like that. Take this leg and I'm going to twist it back just like that. And then this tower will just push down just like that. Check that out. All folded down, and it's actually lower than the windshield. Give you guys an outside look at this thing. Check that out. All right, guys, so there it is, folded down. Common question I get asked when you are towing, when you're trailering the boat, you want to make sure you have this thing up, not down. If you have this thing down, what happens is as the boat, this tower's not really bolted anywhere other than up front. This is just going to get scratched up right here on your windshield. This piece right here is going to scratch your fiberglass. When you are trailering the boat, you want to make sure you have this thing up so that you're not damaging your boat, you're not getting anything scratched up. All right, guys, so that wraps up this wakeboard tower installation. Appreciate you watching the video. If you have any questions at all, just give us a call, send us an email. We'd be glad to answer any questions that you guys might have. And if you're watching this video, this means that you most likely bought products from us, from Make Awake Marine. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for buying stuff from us that allows us to keep growing the business and keep making awesome products for you guys. So appreciate it. Thank you.
She said it's cold outside and she hands me my raincoat.